Good to go? All right. Good evening and welcome to the May 12th, 2025 City Council meeting for City of Solvang. I'm David Brown. May we please have roll call?
Time, sir?
Oh, time is 5:30.
Thank you. Councilmember Infante?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Rona?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona? Absent. Mayor Brown?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Let's see, I need to see if there's any public communications before we adjourn to closed session. Any persons? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you read the action, please?
We are adjourning to closed session to discuss item 2A, conference with labor negotiators. The closed session is authorized by the Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency Representative Randy Murphy, City Manager, Employee Organization, all unrepresented employees. Item 2B, conference with labor negotiator. The closed session is authorized by the Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency Designated Representative Dave Fleischman, Assistant City Attorney, Employee Organization, Teamsters Union, Local 986.
Thank you. We are adjourned to closed session. Okay, we're back from closed session, and I'll pass it on to our legal counsel, Mr. Steele. Would you report any actionable items, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council met in closed session regarding the two items on the posted agenda. Councilmember Elizabeth Verona was not present, and the council took no reportable action.
Thank you very much. We will begin the regular meeting in about 2 minutes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting for City Council, regular meeting. We will start today at 6:32. And I'm your mayor, David Brown. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll call?
Councilmember Infante.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona absent. Mayor Brown.
Here. Thank you. And we'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dennis Beebe. Gentlemen, please remove your caps and come to attention if you may.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Beebe. Okay, we have a few let me see. Go ahead. Okay. Have a few proclamations today. I'm happy to report. Proclamation in appreciation of National Public Works Week, May 18th to the 24th, 2025. People, purpose, and presence. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vitally important to substantial and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Solvang, And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Solvang to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest in understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor David Brown, along with the City Council of the City of Solvang, California, do hereby proclaim May 18th to the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week and encourage all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. In witness thereof, I have unto set my hand and caused this official seal of the City of Solvang, California, to be affixed this 12th day of May, 2025. And do we have a representative to accept this tonight? Paris? Okay. Would you like to say a couple words?
Sure, yeah.
Only two.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for the proclamation, and I just wanted to say a little bit about our hardworking staff. So we have, so the public works staff was more recently broke up into the water and wastewater under utilities management, and then Public Works, which is who is here today, and that is Jonathan Flynn and a couple other guys, Christian and Daniel from our Public Works team. There's a total of 6 in our maintenance group, and then there is Cole Phillips and myself on the engineering side. And then we just manage a lot of contracts, so there's many other hands that make everything that we do at the city possible. Waste management is a big help. They do all of our solid waste services. We have SP Maintenance that does our street sweeping. We have Brightview that does the landscaping for the LLMD, which we'll be talking about tonight. And then various other groups that do several other things around the city. Everything that you're seeing in the streets and parking lots, the facilities, the public restrooms, sorry, I couldn't forget those because they're a big deal around here, is done by Public Works and the staff. So we really appreciate all of the support that the City Council has given us. It's very welcome and appreciated among the staff to be appreciated so often. So thank you so much. And yeah, we'll keep doing good work.
Thank you. We appreciate the job they do. Okay, our next proclamation is for Memorial Day. And this is predominantly because we don't have another meeting until after Memorial Day, so we'll give that today. Whereas on Memorial Day, we honor the heroic men and women who gave their lives while defending our nation and cherished freedoms. These heroes were fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, loved ones, and friends who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to something bigger than themselves. And whereas this solemn tradition of remembrance began as Decoration Day in the wake of the Civil War, the observance was later broadened to recognize all Americans who have perished in our nation's wars, and Congress formally established Memorial Day as a National Day of Remembrance in 1971. And whereas these brave souls and their loved ones forever remain in our hearts and minds, we pay tribute to them with our enduring gratitude and respect, and we are committed to honoring and caring for the veterans who are still with us, their brothers and sisters in arms. And whereas in honor of our fallen heroes, flags will be flown at half-staff on all municipal buildings and grounds throughout the city of Solvang on Memorial Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor David Brown, along with the City Council of the City of Solvang, California, do hereby proclaim May 26, 2025 as Memorial Day, and in doing so, encourage all Solvang residents to take a moment of silence, recognizing the servicemen and women who put their country before all else. In witness thereof, I have unto here set my hand and have caused the official seal of the City of Solvang, California, to be affixed this 12th day of May, 2025. And if you are a veteran, please acknowledge yourself as such. Raise your hand. I know Dennis is, others. Thank you so much for that service. And we'll present this at the memorial service on Memorial Day to the VFW charter. Thank you. Okay. There are no presentations tonight. Are there any public communications? Item number 3. Any online? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to City Manager's report. Mr. Murphy, please.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'd like to start out this evening. I've asked a couple of representatives from the fire department, Tom Himmelrich and Andrew Weddell, to talk a little bit about the fire we had here, all the excitement we had Friday before last. And they've got a slideshow and a couple of photos they want to share, and hopefully they can answer questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead and call it
Slideshow
up.
coming up on the screen.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, yes, my name's Tom Himmelrich, Battalion Chief for Santa Barbara County Fire, Andrew Waddell, Captain at Station 30. So go back last Friday, 5:29 a.m., 2 911 callers reported the smell of smoke in downtown Solvang. They didn't provide any actual address or know what was on fire. They just said they smell a strong smell of smoke. So dispatch alerted Station 30 to go investigate. Within 2 minutes, then they started getting more 911 calls and actually then reported that the building was on fire. And we upgraded that to a full structure fire response, which in this area includes 4 engines and a battalion chief. So then they were already out the door. So then that brought me, the Solvang or the Buellton engine, San Ynez, and Gaviota started rolling. He showed up first on engine, the backup engine, so it was engine 132, but Station 30's crew. And his report was a 3-story vacant, large commercial building fully involved, and initiated a defensive fire attack. So for us, that means the fire's well established. It's not anything that we're going to do to go inside and put out a fire in a defensive posture. It was already venting through the roof. So we were going to then set up around the building and try to maintain it to the building of origin and protect all exposures. So based on that report, go back.
Oops, sorry.
Based on that report, we upgraded to a second alarm, which brought engines from Los Alamos, our county engine from Vandenberg Village, and 1 engine from the city of Lompoc, as well as another battalion chief who's stationed in Los Alamos. And we also requested the ladder truck from Goleta, and then additional equipment, the air and light unit, and a standby ambulance. And then a minute later, then based on what we saw, I added an additional ladder truck, which came from the city of Santa Maria. Next slide. So when I arrived, you can see that's in Andrew's engine right here in front. The one behind it is the San Ynez station just pulling in. I pulled in where they were, stopped there for a second, talked to the deputies that were there. We discussed evacuations and road closures. We evacuated every occupied building within a block, and I asked them to set up road closures 1 to 2 blocks away. And then I drove around the block to get a look, and then came to park at First and Oak, where the command post was. And I got out, snapped one picture, texted it to my boss, so he knew what was going on, and then went to work setting up. Andrew came over, we tied in, and we discussed we're maintaining defensive fire attack. The goal to keep it in the building of origin. At that time, I asked for 5 additional engines. So then that came from the city of Santa Barbara, Montecito, another engine from Santa Maria, and one from Vandenberg, Space Force Base. And then division chief from Santa Barbara and Montecito as well, and then requested the utility companies at that point. Our investigator arrived. He lives in Buellton, I believe, and hasn't grown, and got that as part of his investigation pretty early on. So that's about a half hour into the fire. You can see from this vantage point, the 3 engines. There's another one on the backside, and then right in the Mole Alley, engine 24 ended up in there. So good picture there demonstrating what we have there. You can see in the alley on the backside, that's engine 38 from Gaviota that's posted up there between the theater. Go to the next one. So you can see within about 45 minutes, the bulk of the fire had been knocked down. Did not spread beyond the building of origin. We didn't declare it knocked down fully for another hour. We kept water flowing on it. We got the ladder trucks up, put water on it from above, but within this amount of time, we had it pretty well knocked down. So there you can kind of see the aftermath a little later. There's one of the deputy chiefs with the city manager. You can go to the next slide. There's showing what the position of the ladder trucks, where they were. And so that shows all the agency that responded. So in total, we had 12 fire engines, 2 ladder trucks, an air and light unit, an ambulance, numerous deputy sheriffs, and public works. Water company was there quickly. I saw the mayor there quickly and city manager. So that's an overview of the incident. I can currently under investigation, so I asked the investigator, is there anything we can report on that? And he said, we can't, nothing can be released at this point, but it's under investigation. So.
When do you expect to be able to release that information?
I do not know that. I can follow up with our fire marshal on that, but Chief Tan is the county fire marshal and oversees the investigation section. And I would assume that he would just say, when we have something we can release, we will at our earliest available time. I know everybody wants to know.
And a lot of people already have an assumption, sorry, I don't have my microphone on. A lot of people are already assuming what caused it, and I'm not willing to justify or support that. Either way, I want to know what you guys think.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
That's,
thank you.
yeah. Other questions?
Can you share with us if the building a total
Total loss?
total loss?
Yes. Yeah. Essentially on arrival, for the most part on arrival, it was a total loss.
Okay.
And that determines a lot between an offensive and a defensive fire attack. So when it's already vented through the roof, large portions of the roof had already collapsed, it was a total loss essentially at that point.
Okay. I want to, I don't know if you have any questions? I'd like to thank you and your team for an awesome response and putting it out and saving all the properties around it.
Yeah.
And for coordinated efforts and whatnot. Shout out to all you guys, Station 30 and the rest of you guys. Thank you
Everyone did
so very
great.
much.
As we were coming in, his initial report on conditions, sometimes you can tell a lot by the fire by our voices as we're communicating, and he was just calm, collected, just in initial command and set it up for success. So a lot of the, our fires, the first 5 minutes determine the outcome of the fire and how that first in captain establishes that incident. And he did a great job on that.
I think we're also very fortunate that there was no injuries or
Exactly.
loss of life.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
A few other things to report on, and that's it. I thought it was important for the community to hear about that and see the pictures. I mentioned last council meeting that the San Ynez Valley Transit schedule is changing. I believe it's effective already. Check out the SYVT, so San Ynez Valley Transit.com. For more information, if you're a frequenter of the bus transit system, so that you can know they've added a permanent stop. It used to be on call at the casino and the tribal health clinic, and also a new stop at the Buellton Library. So that's what's caused the change in the schedule. So just be aware of that. If you end up riding the bus, you need to check out and see how the schedule has changed. I don't have that information handy, but it is on their website. Also wanted to share, we've published this information on our Facebook and I think on our city website. There is a WaterWise high school video contest. And the Santa Barbara County Water Agency voting is underway for the 25th annual WaterWise High School Video Contest People's Choice Award. The contest challenged students throughout Santa Barbara County to produce fun, creative 30-second videos on the importance of water use efficiency to our community. This year's theme is Get Rooted in Local Beauty with Native Plants. The 10 videos were submitted by 29 students from 3 high schools across the county, including Dos Pueblos, San Ynez Valley Union, and San Marcos. The public is invited to view all the videos submitted at www.youtube.com/@WaterWiseSB Santa Barbara /playlist. All votes must be submitted before 5 p.m. on Friday, May 23rd. So I wanted to share that with the community. There's also Cal OES has some training for local businesses and nonprofits about disaster resilience. A lot of times we don't think about business continuity or other things that happen. A disaster could be a community disaster, or it could be an individual building, like we just had this fire. That happens more than you would think. So the training dates are June 12, June 26, July 10, and July 24th. It's free, and go to drbtoolkit.org, disaster resilient business, DRB, disaster resilient business toolkit.org to get information. You can also reach out to Stacy at, it's a STACEY, so Stacy with an E in there, at drbtoolkit.org for more information, or you can also reach out to me. Want to announce, we've talked about this before, this is a quarterly cleanup. Last time in February, it set a record for our community. The next one is going to be this coming Saturday, the 17th, from 8 till noon, 8 a.m. till noon at parking lot 4 out here on Oak Street. I also received an email from Waste Management telling us that our rates are going up effective July 1. The council approved the formula based on legal help from Chelsea, who'll be back in June, by the way, for, I'll have to say hasta la vista to Craig. But anyway, so Waste Management's commercial and residential service rates are going up 5.43%, and roll-off box and ancillary service rates are going up 5%. And these are consistent with the contract that was negotiated, and we'll have that information on our website soon. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the manager? None? Okay. Let's move on to item 5. Would you read that for us, please, Madam Clerk?
Government Code Section 53232.3D, AKA AB 1234, and Government Code Section 84308, AKA SB 1439, report out, ex parte communications, council comments, requests.
Thank you. Any council members wish to? Mark, go ahead.
A couple things real quick. Many of us and a lot of representatives were at the Chumash ceremony or / reception at the new museum, which is opening up. I think it's June 1st is their advertised date to open, if they're not open already. Is it? Well, I heard May 15th, and then somebody else, I think it was Sam told me June 1st. Anyway, the ceremony was yeah, you know how it is with politicians and lawyers. So there was Senator Lamone was there, Assemblymember Greg Hart, County Supervisor Joan Hartman. Of course, the Chumash board was there. There was Buellton representatives of mayor and city manager. Our city manager was there. It was really a very nice meeting. And then we had the opportunity to go through the museum, which is absolutely something you should see. Quite spectacular. One other thing that I would like to bring up to everybody's attention, the California Air Resources Board, commonly referred to as CARB, is going to have a public landscaper work group meeting on small off-road engines. And what they're trying to do is let everybody learn about the new rules and incentives to help purchase electric landscape equipment. That'll be an online meeting that's going to be held on May 28th. It's going to be a virtual meeting through Zoom, and you can get that off the CARB website. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
few
Ms.
things.
Smith?
It's been a busy couple of weeks, so just wanted to say that I attended the Community Aquatics Foundation reception at Artiste Tasting Room in San Ynez. So learned a lot about what was going on with that. And Thursday, I also attended the Chumash Museum opening, soft opening, which I agree, it was spectacular to see that. So I'd encourage people to go there. I also attended the Rotary Run for the Roses fundraiser at Vega Vineyard on Saturday, which was a lot of fun. People were bidding on lots of things, so I think they raised quite a bit of money. So I know, I mean, Claudia Arona was there, and so was the city manager. And I failed to mention it at the last meeting, but I am on the ad hoc budget committee. So Elizabeth Arona and I, we attended, I think it was our third meeting on May 8th. So we're still working on some things. And then lots of things going on. I attended Friday evening the campaign kickoff for Carla Mead, who is running for, I think it's District 4 in Buellton City Council. And it was really nice to see so many people there, and it just always just fills my heart to see that people care, and they come out and they care about their community and have opinions and come to meetings and talk. And so it was a really nice event at Industrial Eats. So I think that's about it.
Good. Anything to share?
No, I also attended the Run for the Roses. Lots of members of the community were there. I echo the feeling that it's great to see that everybody gets involved. It seems like we see everybody at the same functions over and over. But it's great. It's great to see people involved.
Okay, thank you. Well, I too was at the museum opening, and it is phenomenal. So I agree with that, everybody, what they've said here. But I also wanted a shout out to our fire department, which I've already done. They did a great job of the Molly Way fire. And a couple of other things here. I wanted to give a shout out to Maddie Branson. Got a great review and some feedback. She's in our planning department. and great job there. And then I also got a very nice compliment toward Raphael and his team for our planning department by of nothing else, another developer. So I was happy to hear that. And usually I hear the problems first, but when I'm hearing compliments, I'm delighted about that. And then again, I was at the couple of the meetings with the aquatics and a number of others. I'm sorry I missed the Derby Run for the Roses, but my nephew was getting married out of town, so I was had a pre-engagement there for that. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to item 6 for our agenda, please. Madam Clerk, would you read that for us?
Consent is for routine administrative city matters and is approved with one motion. These items are discussed only on request of council members. Members of the public were afforded an opportunity to speak during the public communications portion of this agenda.
Thank you. This is a long consent list, items A through M, as in Mike. Any concerns? Okay, I don't see anything to be pulled. Then I'll accept a motion for approval of item 6.
I'll move that we approve item 6, the consent items, as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve item 6. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Rona.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona, absent. Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, next is, we have a public hearing, item 7. Madam Clerk, would you read that for us, please?
Public hearing to consider adoption of resolution number 251290, confirming and levying assessments for the Solvang Mesa Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District number 20041 for fiscal year 25-26.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Hi, back again with the resolution for adoption, the resolution 25-1290 for the confirming the levying of the assessment for the Solvang Mesa LLMD, which manages the lighting and landscape maintenance district for the Solvang Skip Mesa neighborhood. The assessment would be levied this year in the amount of $1,429.66 per parcel for the annual assessment, and this would roughly be a 3% increase from last year's, and this will allow them to operate the LLMD for the coming year without dipping into any of their reserves for the scheduled maintenance and improvements.
Thank you. Did you have a comment, Mr. Murphy?
No, I just.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Questions? Anybody? I had a question for you. Are the reserves, do they appear adequate for this level of? My
Yes.
concern for any unforeseen instances.
Yes, and the consultants that we have doing the assessment, Francisco and Associates, they've told us a number of times that the Solvang Mesa LLMD is in great shape and has ample reserves.
Okay. If there's no other comments, we'll go to public comment. Anybody on Zoom? Anybody in the room?
I will just note the public hearing is open.
It is,
This is a public hearing.
okay. What has here for
Just
pub,
for
I'm just,
the record,
yeah, I'm requesting public comment. I'm sorry.
just for the record.
No public comment? Okay. Then we'll close public comment and go back to council for any conversation. I'm gotta say that, like I said, I usually hear of the bad stuff first. Seeing there's no opposition here from the Skip Mesa area, I think it's pertinent and a great job. And I think by lack of a counterpoint, You're doing a great job, and this is on target, so it meets everybody's needs. So I appreciate you doing that. We'll now request a motion, or are we at that point? Well, I'll move to approve item 7A and adopt the staff's resolution, adopt resolution number 25-1290.
I'll second it. Well,
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 7A. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona, absent, Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8A. Staff, let's read what that is, please, Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible action to receive and file the Design Review Committee roll.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor. So before you is an item that was requested back in September of last year on a 3-2 vote to place discussion item on the upcoming city council meeting regarding the possibility of eliminating the DRC. At the time, no underlying reason was expressed for the requested to eliminate the Design Review Committee. However, we did have some applicants who have expressed to city staff that the DRC process was cumbersome and time-consuming, and some applicants were frustrated with the back and forth, making changes and repeated visits to the DRC to move projects forward, particularly projects that were before the DRC prior to late 2023. So just sort of as a reminder to the City Council, in late 2024, in November, the City Council approved modifications to the permitting processing as a part of its 2024 zoning ordinance update, which was a repeal and replace of the entire zoning code. As a part of that, modifications were made to the role of the DRC. Some of those major modifications were codification of objective standards, or minimum standards for the village and the mission areas that allows city staff to review development applications against a metric standard of time, a metric standard versus a subjective standard. A modification of permitting process to include now a new type of application or a pre-application review, which allows the DRC more flexibility to provide a greater detail and input for design. It also allowed for city staff to approve facade revisions up to 500 square feet if it meets the objective standards that were codified or had no substantial changes to the facade, with the exception of color changes. It also eliminated the DRC to review residential projects from consistency with the adopted housing element policies, as well as the 2017 California Housing Accountability Act, which requires an objective review and elimination of any subjective matters for housing approvals. And so finally, the requirement for the DRC to review all non-residential projects requiring development permits. So this includes commercial projects, mixed-use projects for all new structures, additions of 500 square feet, if adding additional height. And so all these were limited to what was known as the TRC zone only, but now is citywide. So those were just a summary of some of the major changes that happened in 2024. Additionally, prior to late 2023, staff and its consultants were directed to accept applications up to 2 weeks in time prior to DRC meetings. So this was a deadline that was set arbitrarily, no rhyme and reason to anything of that. While this was more than likely done to speed up the applications that go to the DRC, there was a cause and effect. Essentially, this practice didn't allow for a thorough review of an application for consistency with city and state and federal requirements. And this also led to applications being presented to the DRC that seemed to be premature. So it's essentially creating a nice adversarial environment between city staff, the Design Review Committee, and applicants. In late 2023, city staff implemented a change to its application processes for consistency with what's known as the California Permit Streamlining Act. Essentially, what this did was allowed for city staff to review applications for up to 30 days and review the applications and submittal materials to ensure consistency with not only our adopted zoning code, but also guidelines, state law, and pertinent federal law. So essentially, this also allowed city staff to deem an application incomplete, which afforded the applicant to revise an application to either make it consistent with the city standards that were in place, or provide written statements of explanations of why they were asking for exceptions to our zoning code. Included as a part of the application processing change, we implemented a series of submittal checklists that outline minimum requirements for application submittal. So this was most important for color paint samples, for repaints, signage, particularly whether it's temp signage or permanent signage. And again, this allowed for city staff and the applicant to review exactly what they needed to submit in order to get to a DRC hearing. So what this has done is created more comprehensive staff reports, including standards, findings, pertinent law of state and federal codes, to which, if the proposed project were in conflict, we're able to let our DRC know. So with the revamped reviews, the revamped staff reports, and those staff reports including options for the DRC with potential pathways to get projects moving, the DRC over the last year has been able to provide a clear direction to applicants and create a more collaborative approach and reduce the number of meetings with applicants, particularly for those that are looking for signage, while maintaining its ability to ensure high-quality projects in the city and preserving its old world Danish heritage, which is the whole point of the DRC. So while at the time the item asked for elimination of the DRC, we are highly recommending the DRC not be eliminated. DRC is a vital advisory board, and it's been around for quite some time, whether it was the Board of Architectural Review or the Branding Design Committee. It's there for public discourse. It ensures sort of a checks and balances for city staff, the zoning code, and our ever-changing state law, which always seems to change every year. So with that, I'll open up to questions from the council.
Thank you. Any questions?
Obviously, applicants are going to be frustrated with yet one more board that they need to appeal to, but what's the overall feedback from people that have gone through the process?
So with the implemented changes, there's a little bit more straightforward path because we give applicants a checklist. So if they don't provide us what's in the checklist, we don't accept the application. And so that's change number one is, again, completeness of applications. So again, it's that 2-week arbitrary deadline that was set. City staff would scramble to get a report out, and it was half-baked. So I think that's always the biggest change is applicants getting certainty, applicants being told and highlighted exactly what they need so that they can go before the board. There are other times where applicants change their mind before a hearing, and it's the first time we hear it. And that has helped to empower the DRC to, essentially take a pause for the project and ask for it to come back. But again, it all starts with that application checklist and submittal checklist. It really is that ability for us to say, this is what you minimally need for us to review it adequately and then take it to the DRC with adequate enough findings and background so they can make a very good decision moving forward.
Thank you. I will say that back in September, I was one of the folks that wanted to see, I never said I wanted the elimination. I wanted to document the relevance, and that came from a developer who was having significant difficulties. And now we've actually have baked in the DRC into our codes with regards to approvals and so forth. And I'm entirely for the DRC because they protect our brand, our Solvang brand in the village community area, and makes it. That's why it's desirable that's why we're the best little city in the West through USA Today. So no, I would not. I would advocate for your recommendation in keeping DRC as well. Any other questions, Mark? Okay. We'll open it for public comment now if there's anybody that has anything that they wish to say on this subject. We have somebody, well, we got somebody here personally first. Mr. Dennis Beebe,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess there's violent agreement tonight, but, thank you for your service to the community, and that goes for the entire council. A few years ago, I read a compelling book, Death by a Thousand Cuts, and I'm not referring to a song by Taylor Swift. This phrase has a lot of meanings, and the first meaning is a way of torture. But this book described how a goal could be accomplished with a small, little successes, not a major confrontation. And even though I've only observed Solvang's comings and goings for 32 years, I've noticed a slow erosion of the DRC's effectiveness, not their fault. Some of this comes from being forced by the state to change your rules locally. Some of it comes from wanting to speed up the process over on the staff side. And some of it comes from complaints by developers. If some of the developers complain, that means some of them don't. So maybe the DRC's got it about right. I agree with Raphael's recommendation that the DRC is a vital advisory body, but given the state's continued trend to sticking its nose in our business, you might want to consider giving the DRC more influence, not less. And one example could be their output, which is recommendations, which don't have to be followed, can even be ignored. But if the rule said, hey, the Planning Commission, if they don't agree with DRC recommendations, maybe they ought to get together and have a discussion. There's no requirement for that presently. You might want to consider that. So my number one question, and the mayor's already hinted at it, do you think Solvang would have been selected as the number one small town in the West if it weren't for the vigilant attention, the strong recommendations, and the thick skin of the citizens who have been serving on the DRC and its predecessor organizations? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have anybody else? Somebody online? Oops. Okay, come on up, Miss Bates.
Good evening. I arrived just in time and didn't fill out a slip. Thank you for having me up. I am your chairman of the Design Review Committee, and I'm here tonight. I don't have any prepared remarks, but I felt like it was important to follow this conversation, of course, advocate for the role of the Design Review Committee. And I want to start by complimenting Raphael and the Planning Department staff for all the efforts they've been making to objectify the many different elements of design so that we can do our job and so the applicants come in with realistic expectations of what they can do and accomplish, and at times maybe what they aren't allowed to do, so that we are not in that adversarial role that Raphael had previously described. We're still working on those standards. There's a long way to go, but we've come a long way. And I think the process is getting smoother with each meeting as we go along. We're understanding our roles. They're being clarified for the public to understand those as well. I think there's a couple of comments that I wanted to make, and one of them, Dennis actually just touched on. We are solely an advisory body when it comes to design. Signs, we have much more effectiveness at making certain standards required, which are already codified. For the committee to really be empowered, I urge you to consider our role as being a decision maker in some elements, not just recommendations. I also feel as though our committee is very dedicated to doing their research, taking the information that city staff provides and looking on site and understanding what we're being asked or the applicant is asking us. And I would like those standards to be reconsidered in the less than 500-foot description. And that is specifically right now The staff is allowed to approve facade revisions up to 500 square feet if it meets the standards. I understand that the need to streamline. I also see that this is not working as well as intended, kind of straight out of the gate. The 500 feet as an example of a property where they were showing their new design, but took it a little too far, like a lot more than 500 feet. We also have a small community with a lot of buildings that are less than 500 square feet. So as we move forward, it's one of the things I would like to have revisited amongst a host of wonderful improvements that are making our jobs easier. So thanks, Raphael. Thanks all of you for having confidence in us and what we do, and I encourage you to keep that to be the case and even enlarge that. Good night. And I don't know if it's appropriate, but of course, if you have any questions, I can only speak for myself, but it's part of the Design Review Committee.
Thank you.
Answer questions.
And thank you for chairing that organization, that advisory board. Appreciate that. We still have comments online. Susan, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Susan Bott, representing We Watch, an organization focused on land use and environmental issues in the San Ynez Valley. We strongly support the unique and critical role of the Solvang Design Review Committee within the city's planning process. We are pleased to see reference to its importance included in the staff report this evening. We're glad to see the role of pre-application review being formalized and expanded. We do question the wisdom of exempting projects from DRC review that initially present as being under 500 square feet. Thank you so much for your attention to these details.
Thank you. Any others online? Okay. That looks like all the public comment. We'll close that and come back to the council. Any discussion?
I'll make one real quick. One of the things I've noticed recently is there's a Santa Barbara group called the Historic Landmark Commission, very much like our DRC, but they have smaller pieces around the city. We have very brilliantly the whole city now, that if I understand what I'm hearing, it's not just the TRC, it's the whole city now. And I think that's brilliant. But it goes to show you that even Santa Barbara, who has a lot of different architecture, has some parts of it that they have this Historic Landmark Commission trying to control. So it supports one more time the fact that we need this DRC and what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the DRC capacity, because I know they approve signs, but in what case could they make a recommendation and it be ignored by the applicant?
So, problem in the past has been that the recommendations weren't carried forward. So, essentially, a recommendation goes to the planning commission and then it just doesn't end up in the resolution. And so that's problem one. City staff has, particularly again since late 2023, has made a very cognizant, based on projects that have gone forth that need to go to the planning commission, that will carry the recommendation, essentially pinpoint exactly what needs to go back to the DRC, whether it's a color, whether it's a window, et cetera, and make it very clear as a part of the condition of approvals, thou shalt not go get a building permit until it goes back to the DRC. Whereas other previous conditions are kind of willy-nilly. They don't exactly explain where it needs to go back. As far as signage, yes, they approve signage. They actually approve colors as well. And we, as a part of what we process is after every meeting, we now send out a notice of approval, and that spells out exactly what needs to get done. There have been instances where we have sent out a notice of approval and the applicant doesn't necessarily read the entire notice of approval, and then they start moving forward and we, come up with a code compliance case, and then they said they didn't know they needed to do this, and we point out to the notice of approval that you needed to do this. So again, it's a little back and forth in terms of the applicant ensuring that they do their due diligence and do what's actually been told by the DRC, but also it's city staff to ensure that we enforce exactly what the DRC has intended to do, which is, again, why, as a part of the recommendation, we work with our city attorney to make it very clear exactly what the recommendation is and how we push forward in our notice of approval or notices that go to the applicants after the DRC meeting's done.
Okay, so what I'm understanding, it's not a matter of, the DRC makes a recommendation, it can be ignored. It's more enforcement, making sure that the applicant follows what
Correct.
the DRC approves.
Correct. So in one of the instances, it was the DRC approved a landscaping plan and signage. The letter clearly stated, "Go get a building permit," and then you started. Again, it's not necessarily what the DRC had mentioned, but it was our notice of approval. In another instance, going back, there was some confusion between what the DRC thought was going to come back to them, and then what ultimately ended up in the Planning Commission, staff report and resolution, the actual resolution and conditions of approval. There was nothing in it that said it needed to go back to the DRC. So again, it's trying to improve our methodologies from a city staff perspective to ensure what goes before the DRC gets executed. And I'll take full onus on that as the director, to say that if we fail to adhere to what the DRC says, then that the linchpin is with us. As far as recommendations that go to the Planning Commission, yes, the Planning Commission could, in theory, override a DRC recommendation. But typically, in practice, most times, the Planning Commission defers to the DRC for those design recommendations. And the last project that went through to the DRC, they went to the Planning Commission, they very much carried forward, and city staff supported all those recommendations as well. There are instances where we will come up with a potential alternative that the Planning Commission can make, but again, that's up to the public hearing. And then on top of it, there's always the appeal process. So that's always to remember that just because a public member may disagree with the Planning Commission decision that overturns the DRC decision, they can always appeal that to the City Council.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. Where did that 500 square feet come from?
The 500 square feet came from, it's a standard from sort of a building permit perspective. 500 square feet is like the magic number for triggering a lot more stuff when it comes to building permit submittals. So 500 square feet typically is the magic number for fees. 500 square feet is the magic number for soils engineering. 500 square feet is the magic number for structural engineering when it comes to, so there's a lot that's baked into it. It's very similar to residential units. 5 is the magic number for maps. Anything 4 and under is a lot easier to do. Everything 5 and over tends to be a whole lot more necessary. So there's a rhyme and reason to all the numbers. Previous to the 500, we actually had an exception already baked in. It was 300 square feet. But then there was about 6 or 7, there was about 3 or 4 caveats that were a part of the 300 square feet. But it was there. And city staff utilized it as sort of a willy-nilly no standard. They would use it for some applicants, but not use it for others. Again, it's trying to make a create level playing field for all applicants. So that's where the 500 square feet comes from.
And what percent of your applications are 500 feet or less?
Virtually none. Most of them, and again, when we're talking commercial construction, 500 square feet is a pretty small deal. It's not very often that you'll see that. In case in point, we had an applicant that did want to attempt to refresh the facade, but at a small stature, and they did blow over it. They went well over the 500 square feet, but again, utilizing our tools in code compliance, we stopped work and made them go through the application process, and they're going through that process now. But when it comes to commercial construction, 500 square feet, commercial construction is a lot more onerous than residential construction. And again, this is something we can revisit with the DRC and the Planning Commission as a part of our design handbook, because again, the design handbook will be going through those motions, and the DRC and the Planning Commission will certainly make recommendations, and we can bring that back to council, because as described before, these objective standards, your zoning ordinance should be reviewed every year. What works, what doesn't work, what changes, what doesn't change. It's not set in stone. And I've said it since day one, and I will continue saying it till I'm out of breath.
In light of your, what we've heard tonight with regards to more of an advisory or actual recommendations, would you change your recommendation on, from your report to include any additional powers or abilities to the DRC?
That's going to take a deeper dive with the city attorney. And the reason being is because, in my professional opinion, when I read through the DRC and how is it codified in Chapter 2 back in 2022, I take some issues with the way it was codified and the way it's written, because there were clearly some state laws that decided to be overstepped. So it is something that could be reviewed by the city attorney and the city manager, and we can bring something back. But just a reminder, every time we bring something back, that is time that goes back from my staff that is taken away from other work efforts that we're doing.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, it just seems to me like maybe it's just a matter of streamlining the process so that they know, so that applicants know what steps to follow and a way to
Well, I
hold
think,
applicants
I agree. And
accountable.
the checklist and the things, this is light years ahead of where it was, or in my opinion, and those streamlines or those efficiencies are becoming, it's been a long game instead of a short gratification. We're looking at those, down the road.
Yeah.
But they're coming.
Yeah.
I see you can see the little steps of improvement, one of the 1,000 cuts, if you will. So I would entertain a motion on this, if there's anybody, we do.
Yeah, and also I just want to point out that a lot of time was wasted from eliminating an branch of the, eliminating an advisory board that later we decided, oh, wait, this was a great idea. We need to start it again. Yeah, that was very
old
wasteful.
council.
So
That was
not our fault.
a few
but
generations
just making
before
sure
our
if
time.
it's not broke, don't fix.
I'll move that we accept the staff recommendation that the DRC not be eliminated.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to accept staff report and recommendation. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Rona,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona absent, Mayor Brown.
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0.
thank you. We'll move on to next item, 8B, as in Baker.
Discussion and possible action to receive and file the Solvang entitlement and building checklist.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So at the same meeting on September 9th, the council had a consensus to place a discussion item about possibility of developing a professional guidebook for business owners and developers as a checklist of what they need for signs, permitting, et cetera, to gain approval. At the time of the quest, city staff had commenced creating a series of checklists for our entitlement applications, i.e. entitlement applications are those requiring approval by an advisory body. And city staff had been working with our building consultant to fully revamp our building permit checklists that were lacking sufficient direction, were not readily available to the public. Entitlement checklists are started to appear on our city's website in late 2023 for consistency with the California Permit Streamlining Act. Before this, checklists were only available at the public counter, and some of them were insufficient for consistency with California government code, particularly those that were surrounding residential projects. the checklists that outline all items that are required for a complete submittal. So what that means is if there are items that are required of you of your project, city staff won't take your application. It's plain and simple. Items, and so typically when we have and identify items that are not included in the checklist, city staff highlights those for applicants and let them know why we've rejected it. Same goes for building checklists. So at the time, city had only 2 basic handouts, one commercial and one residential, that were extremely general. Usually, if for a shorter project, it frightened a lot of people, and rightfully so. It was about 4 pages long. But again, building checklists also include sort of the minimum submittal requirements for building projects in the city. So if the building permit applications do not have the minimum requirements, city staff rejects the applications and provides the highlighted checklist of missing items. A new state law allows us, again, with residential projects, to reject an item wholly before we have to begin processing the application and meet the minimum state timelines for and timeframes for processing. So essentially what we're saying is you provide us a complete set of applications that includes everything that's on the checklist, then we will in turn turn that around in a very timely and an expedient fashion. So essentially what we've provided to the council is two series of checklists that are actually not all encompassing. There are some missing checklists that we did not provide, but they are available on our website. With the creation of the checklists, we don't recommend a creation of an additional guidebook, but instead continue using our checklists, which now create pathway for applicants to know what to submit. As a part of that, again, it's sort of this agreement. You provide everything that I need in the checklist. So a great example is a new residential structure. For an ADU, that includes your structural calcs. If it's over 500 square feet, it's a geotech report. It's a Title 24 report. It's mechanical, plumbing, engineering, your floor plans. You provide all that to us. We will in turn do our darndest effort to turn that around in 20 working days, or excuse me, in 20 days. That's our promise to you. Since we've implemented this, we've also been able to fix our permitting program. And so now we're able to track these metrics for turnaround time. So with the checklists, our major projects, which is essentially all new construction, we're averaging about 21 days in turnaround time, which has really amazed a lot of folks because they ask, well, how long does it take for me to get a permit? Our answer is typically, well, it takes about 20 to 25 days to turn it around. And the look of shock comes to them, and we say, well, that's the agreement we're making. Minor projects are an average of 16 calendar days. Our simple projects, so essentially our building consultant only doesn't really need planning review or public works. It's 7 days. And over the counter, 48 hours. So again, it's these checklists that help our city staff the most to reject projects out, but it also gives the applicants exactly what they need to take to a design professional, or if they want to attempt to do these on their own. Usually when we have members of the public attempt to do them on their own, they say, well, I've really tried, but do you know someone that can help me out? Unfortunately, we can never recommend someone, but we tell them where to go to find those recommendations. So again, we are recommending not to move forward with the creation of a guidebook, but instead use the checklists that are provided in your staff report. And with that, I'll open up to discussion from the council.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a quick one. What has been the response from the contractors that are going through this and using these checklists now versus before?
It actually depends. So if it's a contractor who has worked with other municipalities, they do it really, it ranges. We've had folks that have design professionals that love the checklist because they know exactly what they need to submit. And as soon as we get the digital submittal, we run through the checklist. We basically take their plans and we quickly run it through with a couple of assistants from tools that we have. And we let them know, hey, you're missing this or you're missing that. And sometimes if they're missing something, but they say, oh, no, it's in the plans. Go look at, page S1. Oh, yeah, cool, it's there. All right, we'll take it in. It's as simplistic as that. The other time, for other contractors, they look at it in a much more, sometimes in an onerous fashion, simply because they're well, why does a small town need to have this? Well, it's not our small town, it's the California Building Code that requires it. I'm sorry. But a great point is a Title 24 analysis. It is needed. As a part of our checklist, we provide the hyperlinks to actually get the free version of it from the American Institute of Architects that published it out for anybody to use. Again, we're just trying to help speed and streamline and get people where they need to go. Because again, the point is to provide a good amount of customer service and with as little staff as possible.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, I had a couple of questions, but there's more on detail, if you will. On page 197 on our report, when I go to new residential construction, your hyperlink takes me to the DRC checklist of colors and material resources. But I was under the understanding that they don't do anything with regards to residential, so I'm a little confused.
On 197, it shouldn't. So,
Or if you look at the hyperlink,
it got the
there's-
wrong hyperlink. So there's a new residential checklist that's actually there. So, which I believe was included on page 221.
Okay.
So it's an error on the staff report. My apologies.
Okay. And then on page, you're there already, 226. I had a question about the check marks there, the check boxes.
Yeah.
Regarding change of occupancy as a check, if I didn't, want to know where you were thinking, or what was that purpose of that checkbox?
Occupancy is regulated by the California Building Code. So the California Building Code provides a list of group occupancies, A being assembly, B being office and retail, F being manufacturing, S being storage, U being a garage or workshop. I can keep going.
So but that's a use change. That's not so much occupancy.
No. So essentially, a great example is you are operating a retail space, which is typically a B occupancy, but you want to turn it into a theater or some other type of assembly space. That is considered an A occupancy. So kind of like the alphabet, every time you move down, it decreases the hazard most times. When you move up, it increases the hazard. So an A occupancy is an increase of hazard, so therefore requires additional more detail in terms of ingress and egress, fire-rated walls, accessibility. It is a very technical aspect of the California Building Code.
Okay. I understand that, but that's changing the use of the building per se from storage to theater.
Correct. It's
Whereas I'm thinking occupancy from a tenant's perspective, I sell my shoe store to another shoe store operator. Am I required to have a planning or building permit?
Depends, actually. So again, change of occupancy it's a very technical item, and typically change of occupancy permits require an architect, and it's almost certainly always required when you're changing walls and spaces, et cetera. So that, but again, the checklists are technical terms. So change of occupancy is a requirement in the California Building Code.
I think there's also, maybe for clarification, a difference between changing the occupant, which is what you're referring to, selling one shoe store to another shoe store. That's changing the occupant. Under the building code, occupancy is a different concept than the actual person or persons who are occupying a building. Occupancy is a type of use, and we can't do much about those definitional issues because that's in the building code.
Okay. It's also in Webster's dictionary, but I'm just trying to figure it out.
State building official didn't use the Webster's.
Okay. And then, is there, I'm sorry, I lost my place on that, but there was, are there opportunities here to include links like to the palette colors and things of that nature for additional value add?
There will be once the color palette is approved and gone through the process. So the checklists are ever changing. So as new state laws get added or as we change our code, we definitely have opportunities to mold and meld them. So again, we take a look at that. We'll add things as required per a new state law, or if we codify a new item. Case in point, a great example is on the CUP development one. That used to just say finished floor height. Well, we codified a new way of doing heights, which was average natural grade. So now it's included as average natural grade and provides the points of exactly what's required for your code. So again, very similar to our ordinances. We take a look at these and we update them as required.
Thank you. And then finally, my last question is, on all these checklists, it requires payment of building permit fees, but there's no link or way to pay it online, or we're trying to move this as far online as possible, I guess, for payments and an amount. So I wouldn't know what the amount was, and so how do we help developers or applicants with that?
So you actually took the biggest first step at your last meeting, was adopting a new master fee schedule, which was basically putting all your building permits in by square footage. But the reality comes back to is our online portal, our permitting system does have an online portal, but it's not set up for the public yet. And the reason being is we need to get our internal house in order for the permitting system, for it to be functional for the public to be, and we are getting there slowly. So we do have the ability, if an applicant requests a permit estimate, we most certainly can. We typically do that. So right now that permit estimate is typically based on valuation, which is the cost of construction of a project. That July 1st, it'll change to square footage, and it'll actually be a lot easier. We'll be able to build a calculator instead for now. But the hope is that the permitting system then will be greenlit slowly to begin being able to take submittals from the public on an online portal versus their current way of emailing plans.
Thank you. We now can go, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question, just a couple of comments. So when I was hired 2 years and 2 weeks ago, one of the, I always tried to work that in the
Don't
conversation.
tell me when you were hired, tell me your retirement date.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not going to do that. But one of the things I heard from the council loud and clear is we need to improve our planning process. Our whole, I mean, developers are saying we're not going to build there. We're tired of the nonsense and the lengthy review periods and all that stuff. So one of the things Raphael has been able to do since he's been here is streamline that considerably, updating the code and this checklist, and we're on a path to making that as simple as possible. You know, I mean, given the vagaries of coming out of Sacramento, it's never going to be perfect, but it's certainly something we continue to attempt to achieve. So, you know, I want to commend him and his staff for getting there. This is, again, the next part of it. I also wanted to point out that developers, even though maybe some of them are pushing back a little bit about the use of the checklist, developers, much like the stock market, don't like uncertainty. And to the extent we're able to give them more and more clarity and more certainty about the process, we're winning a lot of them back. And Mr. Mayor, you even commented earlier about the compliments you received recently. So I think we're on the right path.
Thank you. I'm now going to open this up to public comment. If there's anybody in the room or on Zoom that would like to chime in. Seeing none, we'll then close public comment and back to council for discussion and decision. Any other comments? You guys going easy on us. Okay, I will I will move that we accept item
This,
8.
does this take a motion? Just receive and file. Okay.
I'm making a motion that we accept 8B and receive and file as requested.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona, absent, Mayor Brown.
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. We'll move on to item 8C, as in Charlie.
Discussion and possible action to introduce by title only ordinance number 0380, amending the title of Chapter 8, Title 2 of the Solvang Municipal Code and Sections 1, 11, 2B, 10, 261, and 263A and B to revise the name of the Measure Use Citizens Oversight Committee to the Revenue Measures Oversight Committee and finding such action to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I think Anna Marie just gave the staff report in the title of the item. As you know, you've assigned the revenue oversight measures from Measure E to the existing committee, which is named Measure U Committee, and you directed us to come back with an ordinance to change the name of the committee to the Revenue Measures Committee. And so all this ordinance does is make that change where it appears in the municipal code. We'd recommend the council introduce the ordinance, waive further reading, read by title only. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Any public comment? Mr. Baker, you're on that committee. Okay. Thank you. Back to council for a either further discussion or a motion.
I'll move we accept the staff recommendation. Thank you. I was looking for the words here. That the ordinance be changed to, what are they going to call it now? The municipal code? No. I'm going to call the committee Revenue Measures Oversight Committee.
It's been moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve and accept 8C. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona, absent, Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to item 8D, as in Delta. Would you read that for us, please?
Discussion and possible action to introduce by title only ordinance number 250381, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Solvang, California, amending Section 7310 recreational vehicles and Chapter 6 camping of Title 5 Public Health and Safety of the Solvang Municipal Code to establish camping regulations in the city and making a determination of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act for introduction and first reading.
Thank you. Staff report, please, Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Let's hope we go 4 for 4 on the going easy part of this. In 2023, the City Council adopted an ordinance to significantly revise the Solvang Municipal Code with regard to camping in public and associated issues. I understand there was, at the time, a lot of public discussion and a lot of thought went into that ordinance, but it was at a time that was where cities all over the state were reacting to two Ninth Circuit decisions, Martin versus City of Boise and the Johnson versus City of Grants Pass case, that sort of significantly restricted cities' ability to regulate camping and other sort of responses to homelessness. After the adoption of that ordinance in 2024, then we had the effective reversal of those decisions by the United States Supreme Court, and a ruling that cities did have authority to enact some non-discriminatory regulations of public camping. So this ordinance is has the intent of responding to the United States Supreme Court decision and tightening up some of the city's regulations relating to camping both on public property and private property in some cases. However, breaking news as of today, literally today on both of these items, there's a sentence in the staff report that indicates we had submitted this information and this ordinance to the county council and the sheriff's department several weeks ago and not received any feedback from them. We did get feedback today at 4 o'clock from county council, and they said they were generally supportive of the changes that are being made, but asked us to make what I view as sort of some due process related changes to the issue that I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is the exclusion order. And we have not had a chance to kind of analyze what they've asked for. At first glance, it doesn't seem to be anything we would object to, and if it makes them more confident in enforcing the ordinance, I think we would probably recommend that. So at the end of the report, I'm going to recommend that we have a discussion, council ask questions, give direction, but that we perhaps continue the item until the next meeting so that we can appropriately respond to what county council has asked us to do. The second item of breaking news, and I think it's just coincidentally, is this morning the governor released a model ordinance that would regulate or prohibit camping in public, and recommended that cities use that model ordinance to address the issue, which I had a chance just to look at pretty briefly this morning. I think it is worth comparing what we have proposed to be adopted here, just to make sure that there's not some glaring inconsistency. I don't necessarily feel like we need the governor's staff to tell us how to solve local problems, but it would be good to be consistent with what the governor has put out and not inconsistent. So that's another reason why I'm going to recommend that we just have this discussion and take the time to bring this back. There's no particular time urgency, Randy informs us, to getting the ordinance adopted. So here are the basic points of this proposed ordinance. Again, it's updating 2 chapters of the municipal code to respond to the Supreme Court's decision. One is in section 7-3A, there are existing prohibitions on the use of vehicles for human habitation on public property at certain places in the city. This proposed ordinance would revise that section to prohibit all use of vehicles for human habitation on all public property at all times. That's expanding where it would apply. City manager would retain the ability to authorize essentially a special event where, for example, a Boy Scout campout might be allowed and there might be an RV being used in an event, something like that. There's a little discretion left to the city manager to waive that requirement in appropriate circumstances. As to camping on public property, in addition, the proposed ordinance prohibits camping outside of vehicles at all times in the VMU, on essential city-owned property and utility property, any place where camping impedes ingress, egress, or access to a property, in vehicle lanes, bicycle lanes, roundabouts, streets closed for construction, and within 100 feet of Mission Drive. And that prohibition is between the hours of one half hour after sunset to 6 a.m. the following day on public property. Significantly during the daytime, camping is not prohibited because of definitional problems. In the daytime, people might just be using the park to lay on a blanket and take a nap, and we wouldn't normally consider that to be camping. But you can't really carve a definition that says, well, we don't like that, but we do like this. So during daylight hours, camping in public property would not be prohibited. However, the proposed ordinance does kind of expand its prohibition on stuff that looks like getting ready to camp, digging, building a fire pit. Those kinds of things would be prohibited even during daylight hours. On private property camping issues, the municipal code already has provisions, and we're not proposing to change those. Storage of personal property is another area where things are being tightened up and also reorganized so that all of the regulations regarding storage of personal property will be in one section as opposed to across two as they are now. There's still a ban on storage of personal property on public property, but we're proposing to shorten the notice and storage periods. Currently, there's a 72-hour notice, and then the city is storing personal property that it deems to be abandoned for 90 days. This ordinance would change that to 24 hours notice and only storing property for 60 days. The proposed ordinance also lists what information is required to be included in the notice, and that information is identical to what the county already requires. So again, it makes it easier for us to work with our county partners for enforcement in that way. Enforcement doesn't really change that much with regard to citations and penalties, except that we're, again, relocating enforcement provisions so that they make more sense in the existing municipal code, and including this new remedy, which is called an exclusion order. And an exclusion order would temporarily ban an individual from a public park or essential city-owned utility property for a period of 30 days if that individual has previously violated the camping ordinance 2 or more times in a year, or violated state law on these issues 1 or more times in the year. There's some other provisions on when this exclusion order could be allowed, issued either by a law enforcement official or a city staff person with authority to do so. And this is the section where county council has asked for some additional language to make sure that an exclusion order doesn't go into effect until the period for an appeal has been filed, and that the person who receives the order knows that they have the right to appeal. So there's just some sort of due process concerns that they'd like to see beefed up. And like I say, I think we're okay with that, but we've only had a couple hours to think about it. Because under our version of the ordinance, the exclusion order would go into effect immediately and then be stayed if the person files an appeal. They would like it to be subject to this 2-day appeal period and not actually be in effect. So the person is not being deprived of a right without having the right to appeal. I think it's kind of semantics, but we'll work that out. And there are a few corresponding changes to definitions in Chapter 6, essentially technical. So as with the current ordinance, the sheriff, as well as city staff, would have enforcement responsibilities. And as I said, I think once we address the comments we got back from the county today, I think the counties will be okay with enforcing this ordinance, which is really helpful to have them on record as being supportive, I think. And so that's the extent of the staff report. Be happy to answer any questions, but again, our recommendation is going to be to just have a discussion if you want to give any direction to staff, but we'll bring it back amended at your next meeting.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, one just real quick. If the state has come up with a new guideline, wouldn't that help encourage the law enforcement to support our policies?
I think that's definitely helpful. The states, what the governor put out today was a model ordinance, not like a regulation or something that somebody else has to enforce. But I think it's helpful for government lawyers, for us all to say, look, the state's on the same page too, we're consistent. I just don't want to have anything that's potentially inconsistent, because then we end up coming back to you later on.
Okay. Personally, county agitates me for this 11th hour. They've had more than enough time to give us their feedback. And so I'm a little, that agitates me a bit, and but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, as much as it irks me. So, but we do have, if there's any public comment, let's take that now. Anybody in the room, anybody in Zoom? Okay, I don't see any public comment, so we'll close that. Any further discussion? I'd recommend, I'd like to take council's recommendation and table this until they can bring it back with the potential revisions that we should consider as part of this. Yeah. And but that doesn't require a motion or anything else, does it? Would you agree with this?
Yeah.
Okay. I have consensus that tabling this for a future time is just fine. Any closing comments? With that, I want to thank everybody. Our next meeting is not on a Monday, but it's the following Tuesday. So Tuesday the 27th, I think it is. Okay, that'll be our next meeting. So there's a little giddy up in the schedule. So we'll see everybody back here on that Tuesday. Please feel free to attend the memorial, the Veterans event on Memorial Day at the Vets Hall. And thank you very much. We're adjourned at 8:05. Thank you.